Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I hope you're all doing great, staying safe and sane and healthy, and just everyone's getting along out there. Today's episode, I'm really, really stoked. There's somebody that, I've reached out in one of the support groups that I was in or that I am in on Facebook and just kind of put out my typical thing that my flyer kind of thing that I put out. And, he reached out and man, yeah, we kind of hit it off, just kind of chit chatting back and forth. And, yeah, I'm really, really excited for you guys to meet, Mr. Avelino, the guy that I have lined up for you guys tonight. But first, before we get started, I know a lot of you guys know that we in a lot of the groups and communities that we're in today suffered a loss in our group. And I wanted to extend my condolences and give my thanks most of all to Wade Devers for just ultimately being, the caring guy that he was. You know, I know a lot of you guys didn't see eye to eye, that kind of thing, but to me, he reached out a lot when times were really dark for me, and this guy was literally suffering from cancer, and was just like, "Hey, you can lean on me, you can talk anytime you want to talk, hit me up." That means a lot. And so I would feel remiss by not mentioning Wade and just saying thank you, and you know, giving a shout out to him, his family, and just again, overall love from the motivated one legger side of things. So there you go. I wanted to throw that in the very beginning, just before we get started tonight, and just kind of I didn't want to set a tone of like somber, but before we just even get going, I wanted to throw that out there. So there you go. But before we get going, or sorry, with all that said out of the way, I my mind just totally went out of whack. Um, with all that out of the way, I wanted to bring up our special guest, Mr. Avelino Rochino. How are you, sir?
Oh, well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Yeah.
How's things?
Oh, good, good. Yeah, I'm not going to get into politics, but I just want to say that I'm sure glad the election's over because I was so sick and tired of getting all those text messages from both sides on my
Oh yeah,
on my
right.
phone.
Yeah. Yeah, it can get tedious, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure.
Especially when you get into politics with friends, you can lose friends pretty quick too.
Oh, and I live in Pennsylvania, and us being, one of the battleground states, yeah, both sides really wanted our votes. So yeah, it's good to have that finally behind us.
I gotcha, 100%. Yeah, yeah, it can get nasty for sure as far
Hmm.
as, like, the arguing back and forth, bickering, that kinda thing. But, uh but it is what it is, so
Yeah.
we journalists, reason that we don't really go politics too much over here, because when we do, it just yeah, you can see those numbers drop.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to give a, shout out real quick to we got some folks coming in. Backwoods 3030, how you doing, brother? Red Dog, good seeing you. Miss Dana, good seeing you. Possum Smiles, always good seeing you. Savannah, how you doing? Miss Kathy Blanks, good seeing you. All right. So, Mr. Abolino, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you join us one-leggers?
So I just realized not too long ago that you and I are have the same amputee year. So I lost my leg in 2019 as well,
Okay.
and it was due to a motorcycle accident. I had been riding bikes for the better part of like 15 years or so, and just one day I was returning home from some errands, and I got T-boned by a landscaping truck. And this landscaping truck had basically a snowplow bracket on the front, but without the snowplow. So it was just the bracket. And
Oh my
because of
god.
that, it probably wouldn't have been so bad because I had highway bars on my cruiser. But because of that, the bracket essentially crushed my ankle below the knee, my leg below the knee. and I was thrown. They told me I was thrown like 30 feet, and so the next thing that I woke up in the hospital, intubated, and the surgeon was explaining to me, kind of what happened. And yeah, then this was all in May of 2019, and they tried to save my leg after one or two operations. And then they finally gave me, after one or two operations, I should say, they gave me the choice of amputation. And essentially, I decided in like 5 minutes to just go for it because, I wanted to start from zero and work my way up.
Right.
And there I was. So I spent a couple of months in the hospital, 20 operations, and then 3 weeks in the rehab center, and then slowly but surely, you know, came back after that. Um, yeah.
Okay.
So
Wow. So, okay. So, yeah. So you didn't have to live with it for too long. You didn't have to live in pain for too long. Thank goodness then.
luckily not. In all honesty, the reason why I decided so quickly is because I'm a mechanical engineer by education, and I've worked for a software company called SolidWorks for the last 20 years, and so we're a computer-aided design software company, and many of actually the software is used for designing all sorts of mechanical products. So um, probably if you were to look around your house, almost anything mechanical, there's a good chance that our software was used in the design of it, especially when it comes to prosthetics. And
Oh,
so
wow.
over the years, I'd visited quite a number of customers and came into contact with, including a lot of prosthetic companies as well. And because of my knowledge of just what was possible out there, like it's not like I truly understood what was told to me back then when I was visiting or when I came into contact with the engineers, but at least I
Right.
knew that there was a high level of technology these days when it came to prosthetics, especially after the wars we were involved in. And because of that, I basically decided within 5 minutes. I said, you know what, there's a lot of good technology that can probably do a good job in patching me up and getting me walking again eventually. And so, yeah, I don't want to live my life with my leg. I saw how bad my leg was. It was at that point, like shattered into I don't know how many, pieces, and
Yeah.
the bones were, and there was a halo on it, and all that stuff. It was basically held together with a whole lot of titanium pins,
Right.
and I knew that like that was no life for me, so I decided to, go
Yeah.
for it. Yeah, go for the
Well,
amputation.
at that point, excuse me, at that point, you start getting into like fused ankles and, fused bones and joints and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
I don't know if like I've talked to a lot of amputees, both
yeah,
on here and in the hospital, that kind of thing.
yep.
I go around and talk to a lot of people,
Same with me. Yeah,
and I talk to a lot of folks who have strictly had an amputation just because they've had a fused ankle, and they were like, "Don't ever do that." It's like that's the biggest like it don't move. I mean, it just stays like this everywhere you go.
yeah, yeah.
There's no like no fluent motion with the foot at all. It's just
Right.
kind of, it's basically a prosthetic that's skin
Yeah,
instead. I
that's
I
made
don't
out
know
of
how to
meat.
word it, but
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? It just
It's a prosthetic made out of flesh and bone, essentially.
it
Yeah,
is. It really is.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because if you take the skin and everything else away and look at it, basically what's inside there is what's in a prosthetic leg.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And actually, so I'm an amputee peer visitor myself. So I've come
Okay.
into contact with a lot of peers in the hospital, and a lot of people who are recently amputated, and they typically ask me, um, how much work does it take? How long will they be before they can walk? And things like that. And then they also described to me a lot of the times their journey, what led them to amputation. And a
Mhm.
few of them have told me about where, their leg was, the doctors tried to save their leg, and so for the last 2 years or 5 years or whatever, they endured dozens of operations sometimes, and all for, like you said, like a leg that basically does nothing other than essentially serves as a low tech prosthetic.
Yeah.
Um,
And the
I
toes don't even move.
Yeah, exactly, the toes, and then so that's one thing if it was just like that, but add on top of that the pain and the care that they have to do for the remaining leg that's left.
Yep.
I'm wondering why more doctors don't encourage amputation. I know that, yeah, that's it's not something that should be taken lightly, and there can be, a million things that go wrong, unfortunately. But I'm
Yeah. It can
wondering
be a
why.
touchy subject for a lot of people too, though.
Yeah, and so I was very fortunate because my surgeon gave that as an option for me after the first or second operation. And so he didn't try to encourage me to keep it or anything like that. He basically he told me that this is something that we have to consider, how do you feel about it? And,
Yeah.
I was lucky I didn't have to argue with him. I just went for it.
I
Yeah.
got you. What was your healing time like in the hospital? Did you
So for me it was complicated because the amputation itself went all right, but
Mhm.
the injury around the amputation, the skin was degloved. So there was a lot of skin grafts that had to be done to,
Right.
get the skin integrity back. And so I was again in the hospital for about 2 months, and had to suffer through about 20 operations. A majority of those were debridement, so they were fighting against infection and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, so just to get to the point where I could go to rehab, so that I could, learn, not even learn how to use a prosthesis, but learn how to, transfer out of the bed, go to the bathroom by myself, all that stuff. That was a full 2 months.
The
Yeah, of
occupational
healing.
therapy stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then so once I was done with the hospital and spent the 3 weeks in the rehab center, there was another, I would say, month and a half of healing as the skin grafts finally and slowly but surely healed.
Okay.
So yeah. So it wasn't
Wow.
until let's see now, I was amputated in May. I got my prosthesis in October, so let's see now, May, June, July, August, September. So about 5 months later, I was healed up enough to finally get a prosthetic leg.
Okay. And
Yeah.
take your first steps and from
Correct.
there.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you had any downtime between then, like, from, like, I don't know,
No,
revisions or anything like that?
no, luckily not. So no revisions.
Nice.
Probably the biggest thing though for me, because of the complications of the skin grafting, I was lucky enough that I received muscle nerve reinnervation surgery early on, so that I didn't
Okay.
suffer from any phantom pain. But because of what I've learned now, years later, is because of the skin grafts and the nerves underneath that skin grafts, those nerves are quite sensitive. So my first process has set me up with a suction type suspension, and that suction type suspension was not really compatible at all with the nerve grafts, with the skin grafts and the nerve damage that I had.
Mhm.
Um, so I wasn't down for any kind of revision, but it did take me a while to learn how to walk properly because of that suction prosthetic leg or suction suspension. I could only endure wearing the leg for maybe an hour or 2 hours at a time before the nerves just started burning. Then I'd have to take
Gotcha.
off the leg for a couple of hours and then recover after that, and then so on and so forth. But nowadays, all's well that ends well. I'm in a pin lock suspension now, and the
Cool.
latest socket fits really, really, really well, and I'm doing really well with it. Yeah. And on top of that, the leg has stopped changing, like it stopped shrinking. So yeah.
Nice. So it's not fluctuating at all anymore. It doesn't.
Not anymore. Yeah, it was
Good
like
deal.
I remember the process is always we're hopeful that it would stop, but for me it didn't stop until about 3 years. Yeah, so I had to keep getting more keep getting sockets up until up until last year, and then finally this year, this last socket that I received last Christmas, I at the most, I'll wear one ply, but usually it's zero ply for most of the day. So
Okay.
that's
Very,
perfectly
very
well.
cool.
Yeah.
I just want to say hi real quick to Nitro Freak. Good seeing you, buddy. And Pigeon Mac. I see you popping in here. Good seeing you. Good seeing you. All right. Well, good deal, man. So you have the pretty much the standard, or not standard, but the carbon fiber socket and everything.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. What kind of foot do you have?
I have a flower all pro foot. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's the blade. It's I guess one of the newer generation. Like it's not quite a running blade, but it's a blade type foot that goes into basically I don't have like an ankle per se. I just have like that carbon fiber blade that goes into a foot area and
I got
into a
you.
foot
So
shell.
so
Yeah.
basically, it just drops straight down from the bottom of the. I thought I had one sitting here. Um, Straight off the back. So it has that big giant that kind of curves way out the back. Comes.
Uh, yeah, in my case, actually, it goes directly from the pylon into the foot area, but it
Gotcha.
forms into like a it
Like a
forms
big number two, kind of.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Um. Well, did you do any kind of like physical therapy, any kind of stuff like that? I mean, I know
So,
we talked a little bit about occupational therapy, but
so this is where I was lucky. So I did go into normal occupational therapy and physical
mhm.
therapy. After I got the leg, I went into standard physical therapy where you're learning how to walk again, and they give you these basic exercises
Yeah.
um, so that you can at least you improve your gait and all that stuff. But on top of that, I was fortunate in that the town that I live in. Um, there is a foundation for adaptive athletes called I Am Able. And one of
Cool.
my neighbors knew the founder of the foundation, and so said like, "Hey, you're the perfect candidate." And he gave me the contact information. And so I met with Chris Craig, who is the founder, and he gave me one of the best motivational speeches. This was even before I got my prosthesis. And then so after I got my prosthetic leg and did some of the basic PT, I then called him back up to get hooked up with one of their personal trainers. And this personal trainer, her name is Jo. She and I have been working together for almost 5 years now. Almost from basically the second month after I got my prosthesis, and slowly but surely, the advanced exercises that she's been doing for me, I think, really allowed me to go much, much, much farther than normal PT and OT allowed me to do.
Very
Um,
cool.
because she herself is an occupational therapist, but when I first knew her, she was still studying to be an OT, but she had a background in kinesiology, so she knew how the body worked and how one could optimize their exercise movements and things like that. And she had the imagination to understand how to apply those exercises to someone like myself who's missing a leg. And so
Yeah.
slowly but surely, she built up my core muscles, and then later on after that, my good leg muscles, and it was. after months and months of that kind of, let's call it advanced therapy, that I finally felt that I was claiming my life back, like I could walk a lot farther and walk unassisted, and all
Yeah.
that good stuff. Yeah.
Man, that's such a good feeling too. It's just
Oh
like
yeah.
even stuff and I apologize, but even stuff as little as I gotta go pee.
Yes.
Well, now you can, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't
Hmm.
know, the small little micro things that people take for granted, like when
Yeah.
you lose your leg,
Yeah.
that's the stuff that, is really, really tough to adjust to,
Yes.
not like, "Oh, let me walk downstairs, let me walk,"
No.
figure out how to walk on the beach, and you'll
Right.
get to that later. The
Yep.
little tiny things is what, oh my god, stepping over stuff in your house
Yes.
or anything like that. That's what I always try to tell people and try to really
Yeah.
stress is like, man, follow your occupational therapist,
Yeah.
really, really closely because that's what they're there to help you try to do is,
Yeah.
you know, I want to help you learn how to tie your shoes on your prosthetic, help you get it on properly,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of stuff. Well, again, we'll get to steps and all that stuff later. For now, let's do our basics,
I,
and it's
I,
super important.
Yeah, I still remember the how helpless I felt in the hospital and even in the rehab center before, I became more independent. I still remember, how helpless I felt in having to go to the bathroom with a bedpan and in
Yeah,
and needing, countless nurses to help me, just sit up, for example, or to move to a chair or something like that. That's all fresh in my mind. That was 5 years ago, and I think that those that trauma and those memories help me to feel, the gratitude that I need to feel going forward. Um,
absolutely.
to constantly remind me that I can't take for granted everything that I have now, and admittedly have worked hard for. I cannot take that for granted. It was a combination of the support I got and the you know the basically all the help that I received. It wasn't just me, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Mac, you be safe, buddy. Drive careful. Yeah, I mean, that again is something you try to stress to everybody is, and again, that's something we'll talk about here in a second. I was getting ready to get to is the mental part of it. You
Yeah.
know, it's tough. A lot of people, they bounce right back. They're just like, "Yeah, I lost my leg, so what? We're good."
Yeah.
And they're not masking it. They're for real. Like they're
Yeah.
honestly, it doesn't bother them, and that's
Yeah.
great. There's a lot of people that can just, kind of rebound and they're back in the race, so to speak.
Yeah.
I wasn't like that. It's still to me personally, and not to talk about myself and
No,
your
no.
interview, but it still affects me to this day. I very much have PTSD. I've been through 7 amputations in total,
Oof.
over 56 surgeries.
Wow.
It keeps going,
Yeah.
and I'll possibly be a double by the time it's all said and done
Oh my
because
gosh.
I have Berger's disease, which is a
Okay.
blood clotting disorder,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, once it gets going and affects a limb and it looks more like frostbite or something like that,
Mhm.
it will continue just to kinda creep all the way up the limb
Okay.
until you gotta continue to, like, cut all the way up until it stops, basically,
Okay. Oh,
and
wow.
that's so yeah, that's my story is on this channel and stuff like that, and, I
Yeah.
would tell people it's just like, go back and, if you wanna have a look at that, but, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, you're right. The mental aspect is super important. I mean, like, both you and I have visited a lot of peers and spoken to
Mhm.
a lot of people in, same situations or sometimes even worse situations than ourselves.
Yeah,
And, the like I never try to, give false hope to any of them because, all of our situations are different. And some people, due to their, health conditions, you know,
100%.
might not have the same prospects, as we might have. And but I do want them to kind of, I guess, take stock in what they do have, so that you know they can understand just them continuing to be alive, and being alive in our our country in our current modern day, with our current modern day technology, how much more of a chance that they have than even a few years ago, or if than a
Oh,
person who might be living in the
yep.
Philippines, for example, or Africa or whatever.
And it's
So
advancing every single day too,
exactly,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
The new more and more robotics and advanced stuff for just prosthetics alone,
yes,
not just mention the world, but just for prosthetics alone is
yeah,
insane. I mean, the
yes,
stuff they're working on, microprocessor feet and toes that actually articulate and will,
yeah,
move with the like, they don't do like this, they'll actually kinda, like, rotate with the foot and,
and can feel the
you know
ground, and
Yeah,
you give
exactly.
like
The sensors.
sensations. Yeah,
See,
yeah.
that's what I mean, you're gonna have people wanting to cut their limbs off just to have stuff like that,
Yeah,
just 'cause,
yeah,
"Hey, it looks cool."
yeah.
Wow. Um, when you don't have your prosthetics, like, what is your, me personally, I get around with my forearm crutches. I love my
Ah,
forearm crutches.
yeah.
What is your method of choice when you don't
Uh,
have your limb on?
so when I don't have my limb on, I use my wheelchair. Yeah. So
Okay.
you know what? I never could get. I always consider myself as having good balance, but I never could get the hang of forearm crutches, and so I have a pair of forearm crutches by my bed in case
Really?
I need them. But like I don't know why, I just never really use them. Oh, if I don't have my wheelchair and need to get around, I do use my walker. So I have like a standard walker, and I get around quite well with the walker. And if I need to go down the stairs, I can, you know, bump my butt down the stairs,
Yeah, yeah,
easily
absolutely.
enough. Yeah, but yeah, I never got the hang of walking with the forearm crutches. I don't know why, but
Okay.
yeah.
I love mine. There's something about them. I have, let's see, yeah, 2 tutorials on my channel that basically show people how to do, because I've talked to a lot of people like that as well. It's just like, "Yeah, I don't see how you use those things, man."
Ah,
And it's
cool.
just like, I need to do a video to kinda show people a little bit, like, tips and tricks how to do it and kinda, like, lean with it, and like, your arms are gonna go to the left, you lean to the right, it's just like you
Yeah,
gotta kinda like skateboarding. I don't know if you ever rode skateboard much when you was a kid or anything.
yeah.
I did. I grew up skateboarding, and it's
Ah,
still kinda a big part of my life, but,
cool.
I kinda applied that a lot with it. I still have good balance and can learn how to shift from left to right, like pivot.
Hmm.
So I think that helps out a lot too, is working
Ah,
with
that's
forearm
true.
crutches.
Yeah.
But yeah, so well, that's
Hmm.
cool. Um So I don't guess with this, it made you didn't really change anything in your career or anything like that, did you? I mean,
I
not
so
much.
growing up, I always had the best of luck in a lot of different aspects. I had always had the best of friends. I have and had a really loving family, including my parents who passed away a few years ago. I had
Oh,
really good luck with my career. So all of those things continued even into what seemed like, the worst day of luck in my life. So what I mean by that is, so on the outside, you see someone. I was in my early 50s when I lost my leg, and I couldn't work for a good 5 months or so as I was healing and in the hospital and everything. But during all that time, my work allowed me to take as much time off as I needed to. And, I had full disability for a certain amount of time. And then, uh, so I had short term disability for a certain amount of time, and then long term disability. And for a couple of months until I got back to work. But during that time, my teammates carried the slack for me. My boss and boss's boss and boss's boss were all very supportive, and there was no question that I would be getting back to work eventually.
Nice.
So, so my job was always sitting in front of a computer. So, luckily I didn't need a leg for that. So I was able to get back to that once I, had the energy and once I healed enough. So that wasn't a problem at all. And yeah, the support that I got from my family, my office mates was just was awesome. And so I still work. In fact, this year I celebrated my 20th anniversary at my company, um,
Cool.
and I love how, and it's not only me that they've supported, but other people who've suffered illnesses and setbacks like myself, and they've done an awesome job in really, supporting those people. And yeah, I can't say enough about my company because of that. So yeah,
That's awesome. I
yeah,
love that. I love that kind of stuff. I love when people will kinda not necessarily it's like, "Look, it's not our job to adapt to you," but
yeah,
they still do anyway, you know?
yes,
It's like,
exactly,
"Thanks, y'all, I appreciate that."
yeah,
It shows that you're valued and that you are
yes,
people do truly respect who you are versus just, here comes Avelino, I guess we gotta
yeah,
move these chairs out of the way for him, you know?
yeah. I
It's
know,
not
I
like
know,
that. It's
no,
just kinda like, you're still very much part of everything
yeah.
so, yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so
But let me tell you more about the phenomenal luck I had as an amputee. So
okay,
so when the accident happened, again, it was in the middle of the street. I was T-boned by a guy in a landscaping truck who ran his stop sign. He
mhm,
claimed he didn't see me, even though it was a pretty bright normal day. Anyhow, I was there bleeding on the road, at least that's what they told me. And but this all happened within like in within 3 minutes of paramedic station. So the paramedics were able to show up, like within minutes, literally, and put a tourniquet on me, soon after that. So without that, I easily would have bled out. Then they transferred me to the hospital, which was about 15 minutes away. And I didn't realize this. So this is our local hospital. I didn't realize this, but our local hospital, Reading Hospital, is one of the top 10 trauma hospitals in the United States.
okay,
So that's another bonus. And then on top of that, I had a really excellent surgeon who took care of me, and and I still see to this day, for follow-ups and stuff like that. So all along the way, both with the first responders to the hospital care to the rehabilitation center to the I Am Able Foundation, which I mentioned, my family, my coworkers, I've had all of that really good support that I'm eternally grateful to. So, to the man upstairs and to all my good friends and family, I'm so grateful. Yeah, I,
yeah,
yeah, I've been able to come back.
yeah, I mean, we're still here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
We're still here to fight that fight, man, that's all there
yeah.
is to it. Um, do you still deal with phantom pain at all? Anything like that? Does that bother
No,
you?
I'm lucky. No,
Nice.
like every once in a blue moon, I'll feel weird thumps or spasms or whatever, but that comes very very rarely. And even when early on, I didn't really have phantom pain, but I uh, attribute that to one of my surgeon's colleagues who worked in the same office. He did the reinnervation surgery. And for those of you who don't know it, that's where they essentially take the nerves in your amputated leg and plug them back into existing healthy tissue so that the
Yeah.
nerves, which are the cause of a lot of phantom pain, they don't turn into neuromas or basically don't have a place where electrical impulses have nowhere to go.
Mhm.
And so in my case, that I think did a great job in completely eliminating, that phantom
Yeah,
pain. Knock on
reroutes
wood.
them.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
good.
yeah, I'm lucky that way. Yeah.
Yeah, they offered that to me, but they thought it would be too risky because they didn't wanna go too like, if they don't have to go too invasive, they try to avoid it because I'm not really I don't heal very well.
Mm.
So, like, what typically ends up happening is it just gets worse and worse and worse, and it just keeps going further up the limb, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I more or less just what they did with mine was, I forgot what it's called, but they basically burn the ends of the nerve endings,
Mhm. I've heard
and
of
I
that
can't
too. Yeah.
cauterizing, there we go. I couldn't remember
Okay.
what it was called, but, so, yeah, that's what the way they did with mine after it was removed. They basically
Mhm.
cauterized everything, and then they're still there, I guess. I don't know really what's going on, but, that did cause a lot of phantom pain and stuff like that
Oof.
on my end. So,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
definitely had a lot like foot cramps and, that kinda stuff. So,
Oh, okay.
it's been weird, but, phantom limb, phantom pain, that kinda stuff. You can still, like, technically feel like, "Oh, there's a foot there," or whatever. "I got a foot cramp,"
I
or,
know. I
that
know.
kinda thing, but, you know, so that's always been the weirdest part to me.
Mm.
Um, I mean, as far as your pain and stuff like that goes, how well did you handle that? I mean, did you have any kinda, like, in the hospital or anything?
So
Like
yeah, it was strange in the hospital. So I think that regarding certain levels of pain, like for example, when I was younger in college, I dislocated my shoulder, and like even during that time, I was able to endure quite a bit of pain. It's weird, like if I get a paper cut, like I can't endure that kind of pain. But if
yeah,
like someone were to take a baseball bat and like hit me on the side of my on the side of my arm or whatever, that kind of pain for some reason I can handle. And same thing with the amputation, like it wasn't soon after my amputation that I was just taking Tylenol or ibuprofen, and I didn't really need the heavier stuff. And
yeah,
yeah,
good.
I think I attribute that to just essentially I for certain types of pain I seem to be able to manage that pretty well. So I still remember in the hospital, that they would ask me what my pain level was, and I would say like, oh, it's all right, maybe a one or a two at the most. Um, so and yeah, I didn't have to take um, you know some of the any kind of serious like painkillers or anything like that.
The narcotic stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, I gotcha.
yeah.
Good deal. What I'm curious to know is, have you got back on a motorcycle? Do you ride?
No, I don't. No,
No?
if I were to throw my leg back over a motorcycle, my wife would finish the job. So
Think so?
it's more because of that. Yeah.
Oh,
At this point,
man.
I'll have to admit, like, I don't really have PTSD from the incident, but I don't really have a desire to ride again either. I mean, I had a sweet bike. I had a 2004 Victory Vegas, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was I put like 80,000 miles on it. I put a lot of miles on that riding, more like all along the east coast of the US. In fact, actually I would take them on business trips, that take the bike on business trips. So if I knew that, for example, there was one time I think my furthest ride was all the way to Indiana from Pennsylvania. And so I planned it like, I would call up the customer and say like, yeah, I can drop by, in July. And so I would specifically, make it a time to visit during nice weather, and then just take the bike and get reimbursed, from the company for riding instead of driving a car.
No.
And so yeah, so I put so many miles on that bike. But after the birth of my son, the unfortunately just normal life intruded, and so my riding got less and less. And as much towards the end, as much as I still liked riding. I didn't have that same passion for it as I did earlier on, I should say. So when, unfortunately the bike was totaled at the accident, and once that happened, I said, like, you know what, yeah, I don't need to ride again, but I'll have to admit I'm actually pursuing a whole bunch of other, interests as well. So I can't complain. Yeah.
Gotcha. Got some secret projects in the works we're not gonna talk about?
Well, nothing really, but but yeah, the like I've always had in my life certain passions and interests of of wanting to learn things, and I'll learn things and then eventually semi-master things. Like I'll never be an expert. But I'll semi-master things, and then kind of go on to something else. Like for example, I wanted to live abroad when I was in my 30s, and after I got laid off from the job that I was working at the time, I moved to Barcelona and
Cool.
lived there for a couple of years and mastered Spanish, and even worked under the table, in a couple of jobs over there as well. But then, I moved back here to the States and, got on with life. And then later on, I would pursue things like martial arts. So I got a black belt in Taekwondo, but same kind of deal. Like, I didn't know why, but like, it's not like I would, I, I guess I would lose once I mastered a certain level of some of those interests. I hate to say that I lost passion for it, but maybe I just realized that there was something else to learn, and
Yeah.
something to move on to. So that included motorcycling as well. Uh, so currently, the one interest that my family and I are pursuing is indoor rock climbing, and both my wife and son, they're really good at indoor rock climbing. And I, even before I lost my leg, I totally sucked at it, and I still suck at it now. But I'm getting, but I'm getting better, and so it's a nice hobby to pursue, because not only does it help keep me in shape, but I've got so much to learn, and learn in so slowly that this will keep me busy for a number of years, I think. So
Nice. It's
yeah,
great upper body too. I mean,
yeah,
it's
yes, yeah,
it's great cardio and it's good upper body. So
yep,
hey, can't go wrong there.
exactly, yeah.
Um, how do you deal with, what happened? Thank you for your service.
Uh,
How,
so yeah, so like because I'm the age I'm at, and I'm in fairly decent shape and stuff like that. People do assume that I might have lost my leg in the military, and yeah, so they'll say thank you for your service, and of course I'll hand them off at the pass. So like I'll say, like, no, I never served, but I appreciate your
yeah.
sentiment
Whoa,
anyway.
whoa, whoa,
Yeah,
whoa.
exactly. But sometimes I feel like I should say something snarky, like like if they say thank you for your service, I'll say like, oh, like, yes, I give some of the best customer service around, or something like that. But no, it's no problem at all. I'm very transparent. I don't know why, but I never had any kind of anxiety or PTSD when it came to my amputation. So, for example, like, I'm perfectly happy to walk around in shorts in the summertime, or to, I've had children come up to me and ask me, about being an amputee, and much to the horror of their parents. And I'll have no problem telling them, like, what happened to me and how I learned how to walk better, and the technology, and whatever they want to listen to me about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have. In fact, I've spoken to a couple of fifth grade classes where there's a special kind of like gifted program close to where I live, run by one of the local universities, and they've had me in a couple of times because um, there's a unit that they study during a certain time of the year, where they're studying about a dolphin that lost its flipper, its back flipper, and
Mhm.
so had to have a prosthesis and learn how to swim again with the prosthesis. And so they've had me come in a couple of times to talk about, prosthetic legs and walking with a prosthetic leg. And yeah, I have no reservations at all telling them about my experience or, educating them at all. But it's strange that way. I've never had, any kind of reservation, maybe it's just the attention seeking part of me, or something like that. I
Yeah.
don't know, but yeah.
Well, you have the cool story though. Yeah, motorcycle accident.
Yeah.
It's just like that kind of stuff. It's like
Yeah.
that's kind of cool. I
Yeah.
mean, let's just face fact. It is what it is. We've
Yeah.
already the limb's already gone. We've
Right.
moved past the oh
Yeah.
poor me and let's have our pity party that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now we can just laugh and have fun with it. You know what I mean? So you do get that cool story of yes,
Yeah,
motorcycle wreck. No
that's
big deal.
that's
You know.
true.
That's, Backwoods right here. He said, "Friend's father lost his leg and still climbs into, 12-foot ladders
Oh,
and,
oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
like in the deer
Yeah.
stands and stuff." I love seeing that kind of stuff. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Same with me. Yeah. I'll have to
Um,
admit that that's one thing that, even though my family and I are getting into indoor rock climbing, the reason why I can do that is because, you're being held up by someone who's belaying you, so you're being held up by a rope, and if you lose your grip, you don't fall. Obviously, someone's there to let you down
yeah,
gently.
got your harness
um
and everything.
yeah, but me, I still have the worst fear of heights. So the other day I had to climb up a ladder, and physically I'm able to do that with no problem with the prosthetic leg, but like I still have that fear of heights, and so like I don't think I even got past the third or fourth rung. so yeah, so much kudos to that person that your friend just mentioned that can get into a 12
Yeah,
foot stand.
man, climbing a ladder especially because well, alright, if you have a knee, it's a little bit more forgiving, but
Yeah.
if you don't have a knee, like myself, I'm above knee, so,
Oh, right. Yeah.
you gotta more or less just kinda pull your leg up the ladder.
Yeah, yeah, and kinda
You kinda
lock
just
it
more or less
in and
use
pull
your
it up
leg
and
as
like yeah,
yeah, it's kinda use it like as a brace to kinda lift the your meat leg up to the other rung, so to speak,
yeah.
so but, yeah, I mean, if you're below knee, it could be a little bit more forgiving
It
and,
is, yeah,
I hate to say easy, it's definitely not gonna be easy, but, a little bit easier, so,
yeah.
hey, whatever.
Well, you actually bring up a good subject, that, one thing that this life has taught me post-amputation is just how much adaptation one needs to have to do as amputees, whether it be above knee, below knee, bilateral, unilateral, whatever. Um,
Mhm.
and so all of us, from day to day are adapting even the simplest of tasks, like going to the bathroom or bending down to tie your shoelace, like we mentioned before. And so one thing that, yeah, this life has taught me is the value of resilience that, we as amputees really have to not only understand our bodies and understand how to adapt to all sorts of normal everyday situations that normal two-leggers will never have to worry about, but we also have to have that resilience to, get over our own egos or to, be able to learn from zero again or to do all sorts of things. And resilience is, this life has taught me that how important resilience really is in managing, our situations.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
You learn to think on the fly, and it definitely teaches you it shows you a person that you didn't know existed in
Yeah.
yourself. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, you find yourself doing things and pushing yourself further than you ever thought possible,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
when you do that, not only do you feel better about yourself, but you realize that it wasn't that hard. It
Yeah.
was well, that wasn't that hard, that wasn't that difficult, that was very easy.
Yeah. Hmm.
Why was I so scared to try that? Why was I so scared to take that step or
Yeah.
to move on to that thing?
Yeah.
And that's, hey, climbing ladders, steps, that kind of stuff, I
Yeah.
mean, you gotta try it, you gotta give it a shot, and just
Yeah.
kinda, you know Hey, Tyler, good seeing you, buddy. Let me see here. Let's say my father-in-law was an amputee, and I had the utmost respect for him, and what he was able to
Oof.
achieve. He was in his 60s when he lost his leg due to diabetes. Yep.
Yeah.
I see a lot of diabetics, and
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's tough, man. It's
Yeah.
tough, I couldn't imagine, well, here an amputee is saying, "I couldn't imagine losing my foot to blah, blah, blah." But, diabetes is a lot different as far as, like, what they have to go through
Yeah.
before it actually leads up to an amputation,
Yeah.
much similar to myself as far as, like, dead skin and that kind of a lot of the swelling and the pain, the inflamed kinda it's not a pleasant life.
Yeah.
Yeah, backwoods, that's what he says, "I'm diabetic, no worry about it." Yeah, well, take care of yourself, dude. Seriously, come on, man.
Mm.
That's my buddy right there.
Ah, cool.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, anything that causes a person to lose their limbs is not gonna be good. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
but diabetics are rough, man. I mean,
I never realized before just how vile of a disease diabetes is,
oh,
until I got exposed to, a lot of peers who lost their limbs because of it.
yeah,
Essentially, the body is, shutting down in a lot of ways, and yeah, it's almost fighting you, um,
yeah,
and yeah, there's a special you know, amount of fight and resilience that people who lose their limbs to diabetes have to do that I admire in them. Yeah, that's for sure.
absolutely. Well, I mean, the human body has to work in conjunction, the heart, the kidneys, I mean, they
Yeah,
all have to work, this thing has to work in order to make this thing work, and it has
yeah,
to be like a factory and everything has to flow perfectly. Well, with diabetes, little things start shutting down, like your liver starts getting affected by it. Well, then that affects, in turn, like your bladder and your kidneys and that kind of stuff. And
yeah,
so it just all kinda slowly starts to not shut down, but just all starts to give you trouble kinda one by one,
yeah,
and, unfortunately, that goes to our feet and causes a lot of foot swelling and that kinda stuff,
yeah,
and, gangrenous tissue, that kinda stuff that, again, we really don't have to get into if people are squeamish about that kinda stuff.
yeah.
You and I probably don't bother. We've seen some crap in our life, but,
Mhm.
everybody else, I try to be more kinda understanding
Delicate.
about that kinda
Yeah,
stuff, so
yeah. Uh, but
um,
but what you were saying though about like us amputees, and what we have to overcome. I'll have to admit, like, there are some, amputee events that I'll go to where I'll meet a whole bunch of, amputees and people who've lost their limbs to diabetes or to trauma like me or whatever.
mhm,
And when I do meet them, like at these events, they're usually luckily a little bit more, experienced. They've had to live with their limb loss for a little bit longer than some of the amputee peers I might have to visit in the hospital. But when I meet those kind of people in those kind of events, I always come back like truly energized because the people who are learning to live with their limb loss and adapting with their limb loss, they have this special quality that you realize that we have because we've had to overcome so much.
mhm,
And it's like uh, they have a certain almost optimism and a certain energy that they give off that I have really come to appreciate, And yeah, the for those of you guys out there who are maybe just starting out or a little bit lost and kind of not, you know, knowing how to, what's going to become of you after losing your limb. I would definitely say that, it's not an easy life, but it can get better with the right amount of work and attitude. And
100%.
the more contact that you can have with your fellow amputees, the more that you'll see where, a little bit of gratitude and a little bit of attitude, I guess, kind of go quite a long way.
Yeah,
Um,
positive
yeah,
attitude gets you a
yeah,
long way with this. That's
yeah,
a fact. It gets you
yeah,
all the way, actually.
yeah. It's not just a platitude, and in fact, some people who might be a little bit more negative in their outlook in life in general, naturally, they kind of put, that down almost like, like, oh yeah, you have a positive attitude. Well, I just don't see it or whatever. I don't know. You're right though. It does go quite a long way, in overcoming this physicality that, we're stuck with,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Well, I mean, do you how's the other leg? Is that everything good with that? Foot
N-
all
n-
good? Yeah.
Yeah, knock on wood. I'm pretty healthy otherwise. I was
Yeah.
lucky that, I was
Good
wearing my
deal.
full gear at the accident, and so when I was thrown, like, none of, I didn't have any back injury or knee injury, or, I
Good
didn't have any
deal.
concussion or anything like that. So yeah, it was just, just the trauma of losing that one leg below the knee. Um, so uh, the subsequent, so what I've learned to do, after post amputation is not only, incorporate exercise pretty regularly in my, weekly life, but kind of, learn to eat a bit better. And
Yeah.
sometimes I don't eat perfectly. Like today, I had a good amount of pizza and stuff like that. But I've
Yeah.
learned just how, to cook for myself and to cook a little bit more healthy, and just, use more natural ingredients, et cetera, et cetera. And that helps quite a bit in managing my overall health. So yeah, and so I just turned 59, so I'll be 60 next year, and actually I'm kind of looking forward to it. Like I'm actually feeling, yeah, I feel like I'm healthier now than, I was before the accident. So
Hey, good deal then. That's
yeah,
awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome. It kinda changes your perspective a little bit, on life as far as your outlook on, not just, "Yeah, I can do this," but, like, your own health and your own.
yeah,
Because I mean, let's face facts, you have 1 leg, you're standing on 1 leg. If
yeah,
we get fatter, we get heavier.
yeah,
Standing on 1 leg is a heavier person. The more weight you add to us, the
yeah.
worse it is. So, we don't have 2 legs to kind of
Yep.
fluctuate back and forth, you know what I mean? So
And then depending on your situation, you'll also, sometimes have to learn how to take care of yourself better, so that, to manage, for example, the phantom pain, or to manage the other health issues that might creep up if you don't take care of yourself.
mhm,
When we're a whole physical person, when we have two arms and two legs and everything like that, and walk properly, it's amazing how much we take for granted. But when, like when we lose a limb like we have, um, at least for me personally, I've come to realize just how much more valuable the remaining parts of me are. And so I really try to work hard to keep
yeah.
those other parts healthy. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
100%. Yeah. It you start taking stock once you get past a certain point, and when it comes time to start losing limbs, you definitely it's just like, all right, yeah, I might want to change some things around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Whether it was health issues or accidental or something like that, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's
correct.
going to be a lot of changes to your diet and that kind of stuff that come with it. It's
Yeah.
basically an entire lifestyle change.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
know but telling
Yeah.
everybody else, it is a complete lifestyle change. Like it
Yeah.
from the moment your accident happened, from the time you and I are sitting here now, it was, a totally different that's it's night and day, you know.
Yeah.
And it seems like again, well, you just lost your leg. I don't get what you're saying, you know. Trust me. That's what I'm trying to do again with this channel is just like show people it's not, you know, it's not as easy as you get your limb cut off, go get you a prosthetic, and boom, you're
Yeah,
off to the
and then
races.
boom, you're
You
wa
know,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
it seems like that. You know, it
I
seems
still
like
re
it on the surface.
I still remember, for example, like, watching Star Wars when I was a kid, and the Empire Strikes Back, and Luke Skywalker loses his hand, and then, like, a scene later, they're zapping, that fake hand on him, and he's perfectly fine, like he can grip a lightsaber again and everything like that. It's like I was thinking to myself, like, man, I wish it was that easy, like with a $6 million man or whatever, and
Oh man,
yeah, but no, unfortunately not. It's a lot of hard work. Even with the advances in technology that we do have, it's a lot of hard work to master how to use them. Actually, that's one thing that another thing that we should probably mention is the psychological aspect. I was lucky that I was lucky that in my rehab center they provided a psychologist for me to take advantage of. So I was able to, talk to her and work out, um, whatever issues I had with the trauma and just ongoing as an amputee. And I know that there's a lot of, unfortunately, there's a lot of, amputees that don't have access to those kind of resources. But if you do, I fully recommend taking advantage of them because my psychologist has helped me quite a bit in not only in kind of processing my own life post amputation, but then
yeah,
also helping me to help my amputee peers whom I visit. So yeah,
man. The mental part of it is again, it's something that you know. And I want to say hi real quick to Miss Crystal here. She was saying hello to both of us.
yeah, cool. Hi,
Sorry I'm
Crystal.
late. Sorry I'm late. Bad weather in my area. Will replay. Much love to all. Okay, well, good deal. And tattoo, that's what he says here. I can't imagine, but I'm truly inspired to hear y'all's stories.
Cool.
Well, thank you, brother. Yeah, I mean, again, like what we were talking about before. Hey, Terry, how's it going, brother? Um, some people it doesn't bother. They don't. They just, you know, it's like, yeah, I lost my leg, so what? You know,
Yeah,
like I've approached a lot of people about, you know, my friends that are also amputees, and they'll just be like, I'm not into this like you are, you know, it's just like, I don't really care to talk about this kinda stuff. Not that they don't really like, they're embarrassed about it or anything like that, but it was just kind of one of those I don't know, they're not really they don't care. They got their limb and they went on back to work or whatever, just, you know,
yeah,
no big deal. And then there's other people that are, you know, so there's 2 different ends of the spectrum, you know, people that just don't care, then there's people that are like they've never came to term with it, like,
yeah,
ever, you know? I
yeah,
mean, 10 years down the road, and th're still, like, upset and crying every day, and every day they
yeah,
put their limb on, it affects them, and these are, like, you know, 6'8", you know, 300-pound muscle dudes. It's not just, like, you know, women and stuff like that, you know? It's
yeah.
just their brain never officially locked in and grabbed on to, "This is real. This is and it's
There,
gonna be like this forever. It's not gonna, you
yes.
know." Can't sprinkle water on it and it'll grow back,
I
you
know.
know?
There's that grief aspect that we as amputees don't understand before it happens to us. That the when we lose a limb, we're losing an intimate part of ourselves, and
Mhm.
some people are luckier than others in the fact that like I was able to process my grief, I think, fairly well and relatively quickly. But yeah, like you said, there are some people that just don't have that ability to process that grief. It
Mm-mm.
might be because they depended so much on that limb that they lost, or the self-image that that being whole gave them, et cetera, et cetera. But
Yeah.
man, the ability to process that grief is so important in our journey as an amputee. It really is.
Oh, very much
Yeah.
so. very much so. And there's people, like I said, man, that it's 10, 15 years down the road, and they're
Yeah,
still they don't look in the mirror and see what they're happy seeing. It just
yeah,
it's and sadly they probably never will be, and that's
yeah,
the part that really bums me out about it. I've
yeah,
talked to so many people that said, "Look, Josh, my life is over. Like, what I used to do, I can't do anymore.
yeah,
The things that I used to love doing, it's like, look, does your leg help you breathe? Does it help you think? Does it's just a leg, man. That's it.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
all it is. Again, little things are hard to achieve. I get it, like learning how to go pee in the middle of the night and stuff like that.
yeah,
Um, the basics when you get home, that kind of thing. It's like, well, if I need to run to the kitchen, do I put my leg on or do I not? Or I'm
yeah,
confused. Stuff like that. You'll figure all that out. But it just there's a lot of it's that you just there's people that it's sadly they won't get it, and they never
yeah,
will come to term with it and come to grips with it. And as long I'm here for those people. I'm here to talk to them and be a part of their life as much as possible. But just as long as they don't start, you can't give up, man.
no,
I try to not let anybody give up, and I've had a lot of people hit me up and say, "Hey, this is thank you for everything. I
yeah,
really I really appreciate you. All you've done for me." You
yeah,
start getting those kind of texts, and it's like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 hold on, hold on, hold on."
yeah,
Why are we speaking so final here? I
yeah,
appreciate everything you've done for me in the past. It's like,
mm,
no, 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 no. It's like, let's talk,
yeah,
and I've had to do that before, and that's
yeah.
man, that's tough. It's tough. It's just like, look, man, it's like my
It,
friend Kurt said, "What does the leg do for you unilaterally? You nothing,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and it's
It,
tough."
the, it, I know, like I can only imagine the loss of hope. I'm lucky that I've always been an optimistic person, and even with the loss of my leg, I was lucky enough to hold on to that optimism. And I can only imagine the loss of hope that some of our peers have, in thinking that, they have to give up all the things they've loved because of the limb loss. Sometimes, for some of them, I would definitely reply and say that, hey, if it's truly something that you love, you have no choice but to fight for it. So, that might involve, learning how to walk again and learning how to run again, or whatever.
Yeah,
Or, you might have to let that thing that you love go and try to find something else that you love. But yeah, you're right, you can't give up. I still remember in the hospital, my surgeon telling me he didn't think I was processing my grief fast enough or well enough, because I wasn't crying or anything like that.
mhm,
And I remember him telling me, like, hey, like, like, there's things you realize that you'll never be able to do again, like, for example, walking the cobbled streets of Paris or whatever with your wife. And I said, in the back of my mind, I said, like, F that, like, I'm gonna do that again. And so it took years. It wasn't overnight. But, like, for example, this past summer, my wife and son and I went to Portugal and walked up and down those cobbled streets, and I was prepared for it. I used a cane just in case, but like, I was able to do that, and I didn't hold anyone back, or and we were able to do and see pretty much everything that we wanted to see. So it's, again, it's amazing, the country we live in and the technology we have now and the medicine that's available now, that there's so much that we can do given the right amount of work, and the right attitude, that I would really, really try to convince a person not to give up as an amputee.
no,
Yeah. And if again, yeah, sure, we can't do everything, but maybe there's something that we can adapt to, and that's where the adaptation, the resilience comes into play.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Um, I have one question that I like to ask everybody, and I always save it towards the end, and I'm sure you saw it on the questions that I sent you.
Mhm.
Is okay, you're getting ready to go into your surgery, you're getting ready to you're laying there right now and you're sitting there beside yourself. You can lean down and tell yourself, "Look, before you go through this, I've been here. I know what." So your future self talking to your
Yes.
present self laying on the
Yeah.
bed.
Yeah.
What would you tell yourself? It's like, "Look,
Oh.
man, get ready for fill in the blank. Like, be
Ooh.
prepared for this because it's gonna be rough," or
Yeah.
"It's not so bad," or, whatever.
Oh, that's so the one thing the one advice I would give my about to be amputated self is so yeah, there'd be plenty of things I would want to tell them, like, don't give up, or like, yeah, this sure sucked, this part of the recovery stunk or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think one thing that I would want to tell myself is that learn how to advocate for yourself, and the sooner that you can learn how to advocate for yourself, the better. Because
Yeah.
early on, I never had any kind of, major surgeries or, hospital stays before. So my faith was always, I would see the doctor would prescribe a pill for me, or a rehab exercise for me, whatever, and I would do it without question. They'd say, like, "Oh, Avelino, stay off your leg for a few days, or don't use your arm for a week, and you'll be fine," whatever. Um, but I learned relatively, and not early on, but eventually in this journey, that how much I had to learn about myself. I had to learn about prosthetics so I can make the right choice of leg. I learned about health so that I could recover better. I had to learn about nutrition, all that good stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's one thing I would tell my younger self is, get into the mode where you can advocate for yourself. So if that means that you have to learn about prosthetics, you have to learn about suspension systems, you have to learn about nutrition better,
Mhm.
don't leave those things to the quote unquote professionals. Really try to learn as much as you can so that you can have a discussion with the professionals. And there were a lot of times where the professionals led me down a wrong path, like, for example, with the suspension system, that didn't work out for me. And if I knew how to advocate for myself and knew what was best for my leg, I would have made certain suggestions that I do presently do now with my current prosthetist. But
Right.
that's all just from experience. But the sooner that one can advocate for themselves, the better. Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, being a self-advocate is, like, very, very key in what we do.
Yeah.
Don't let them just put you in any leg, or don't let them just, send you out the door with whatever parts or whatever. If it hurts, if it don't feel right,
Yeah.
something's in the back of your mind that tells you, I'm not comfortable with this,
Yeah.
tell them 100%, let them know, you
Yes.
know. 'Cause, I mean,
Exactly.
that's they don't feel what I feel, and
Yeah.
that kinda thing, and my prosthetist himself is he is an amputee as well.
Mm.
So he kinda gets a little bit of, like, "Hey, it's pushing up on my," on the hip area, or it's too much higher in the groin area. "Cool, I got you." He can take it and adjust it, and, that kinda thing.
Yeah.
So that's always key, is having, people like that around. But yeah, being able to advocate for yourself and speak up for yourself and tell them exactly what's wrong is key, and
Yeah.
not taking no for an answer,
Yeah. Exactly.
that you cannot take no for an answer with this stuff.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this is your livelihood. This is how we get around. This isn't just something that's cool to have. It's literally your leg, and
Yeah.
it has to be dialed in, has to be just right. If it's not, then back to the drawing board.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Let's see. What did it say? I don't want to speak out of context, but I think support groups of people who, let's say. who are and have been through what's going through help a lot. Just yeah, absolutely. I've spoke at a lot of them before. I've talked to like groups before at both like nursing homes,
Yep.
VAs, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Anybody from say 8 to roughly 15 people, something like that. And you can just kind of talk to each individual person and realize that you can see the different stages that everybody's at with it, and
Yeah.
it's just like you can talk to people again that is just like they're fine. Other people is just like, man, this
Yep.
you're gonna have a rough time with it. I can already tell, like, like they're literally sitting there and in the meeting or in the speech, crying, and it's just
Yeah.
like, man,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
No.
that part, that's rough.
Yeah. No, thank you for that comment. That's definitely, yeah, very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Mr. Avelino, I greatly appreciate you coming and hanging out and just being a part of everything tonight and just agreeing to be on my show, my little
Oh, you're
show here.
welcome.
It's,
Yeah.
we don't draw big huge numbers or anything like that, but hey, whatever. We have fun and hopefully we get a message out there to people and they enjoy what we do here. So,
All right, thank you. Yeah, you're very welcome, Josh. Yeah, I appreciate it.
absolutely.
Do you have a second after the show? I just want to mention something to you.
Sure.
That but we can take it off air.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, no worries.
but no, it's
Just
perfectly.
just hang out. Don't go anywhere. I'm
Okay.
gonna do our little wrap up, and then you and we'll chat here in just a second. So
Okay.
give
Excellent.
me just a second. But with that, I greatly appreciate you coming and hanging out, being a part
Okay.
of everything, and just being here with us tonight.
Cool. Thank you.
So, all right, everybody. Well, I greatly appreciate everyone coming, hanging out, being a part of the show. Just I realize that we're not all amputees and we're not all people that are having medical issues and that kind of stuff. And you guys still choose to come and hang out and be a part of these. And I can't tell you how much that means to me and how much, that it again, it truly means a lot to me knowing that you guys will take the time out of your day to come and be a part of these. For Wade and his family, I want to again truly extend my condolences to them and uh, we'll try to reach out to his wife and let her know that if there's anything they need to reach out, and we'll definitely see what we can do about getting them taken care of, getting them fixed up. But I guess I'm sure that somebody will in our community will be doing lives and that kind of stuff, and again. I don't know what kind of scheduling that'll be, but just be looking for that when it comes out. So, with that, I want to thank Van Shoes, Firmu Eyewear, Taggart and Torrance Podcast, Majors Mess Hall, Bulow Prosthetics for just all they do for the show. Thank you guys for coming and being a part of this and just being, hanging out and being your typical cool selves. So, with that, everybody, please drive safe.